Today's guest is Amita Sharma, who is the co-founder of NourishDoc, a global holistic wellness platform for middle-aged women. And Amita has over 20 years of working in e-commerce, fintech, and other high-tech companies. She was inspired by her perimenopausal journey and working in the high-tech world. This is where she felt unsupported and embarrassed, and basically having a dire need to bring a taboo topic out into the open discussion. She's now on a mission to bring affordable holistic wellness to every woman in the world who's going through this midlife journey of perimenopausal and beyond. Okay, so Mita, thank you very much for being on. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me. Really appreciate that.
You're very welcome. So it seems like you have this, like you have one world, which was like your corporate fintech world, and then you have this thing that kind of happened to you, and now you're like, okay, well, this is a much deeper mission. So yeah, I'd love for you to just kind of give us some context on like how did that transition actually come about, and how did you get to doing what you're doing today?
Yeah. Like as you mentioned a little bit, I had a lot of embarrassing moments. I was dealing with a lot of international teams at these organizations, and while sitting in meetings, I started experiencing some of the symptoms of any mid-age woman who's going through perimenopause. And I did not know what was happening. Sweating and strange things started happening to me. And at that time, I thought I was having a heart attack, and I was embarrassed to talk to anyone. I kept it all hush hush, and within me, I was like, oh my God, my confidence went down the tube. I'm thinking people will misjudge me. They think I can't do my job properly. And even at that time, some of the symptoms, I would forget little things here and there, brain fog being one of the symptoms for a woman going through hormonal imbalance. So all these things started happening. And this is few years back before COVID. And at that time, I did not think that I'm going to go into this mission of going deeper. But the COVID was, I think, the best thing that happened for me is that I started with this simple free webinar series on holistic health, and started getting a little bit more deeper into the women's health, specifically during this age group when I discovered underserved, under-researched all over the world, not well understood at all, and so much complications that happen. So that was the inspiration for me, my experience that happened a few years back, slowly leading into to where I am today, really helping women to understand themselves during this phase of their life, which is super, super important.
Love it. It kind of reminds me, and it's come up on the podcast very often, but that idea of like my mess becomes my message, right? Like I went through this mess, and now it's become the message, it's become the thing that I'm about. So that's kind of what I'm hearing when you were discussing, your
Mhm.
journey. So if you want to add anything to that, by all means.
No, you summarized it very beautifully. Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, I mean, in that case, like I understand exactly what the mission is, behind this, and why it's important to you. So yeah, I'd love to then just segue into looking at, okay, so what are the current issues you might be experiencing inside of your business? And just we can break down then how are any of your either mental, emotional, behavioral patterns impacting that? Kind of tell me where you're at, and then we can break it down from there.
Yeah, so we've got a proof of concept, minimum viable product, so to speak, and we are at the process of launching that product. And when you know that you're launching the product, you try to get the market research and try to understand what's happening, what the market is telling you. So sometimes it's good, sometimes people have resistance. Like I told you, we are working in a subject of taboo, where a lot of women themselves don't want to admit they're having problems. So it's the really the fear of the work, all the work that I have done for so many years. As I said, I quit my job when the COVID hit. I was working for Western Union at that time, and now I put in my life and energy into so many years, and fear of failure, to be honest with you, right? Fear of whatever I'm doing, whether people are going to accept it or not, or people are going to use it. So those are the things that are going into my mind. And that adds, of course, the fear part goes into the anxiety. And then all the experiments that we are doing last year, some of the experiments did not work out. So then it's like self-doubt. Oh, I should have thought about it earlier to stop those experiments. So these are the feelings that are coming in my mind from a business, what is happening in my business right now.
Got it. Okay. So it's kind of like you made this decision to quit and kind of follow this calling to like do this, and now the reality of it sets in where it's like, okay, well, there's I know there's something here to like help people, but I can't seem to get it out there in a way that's actually going to help people. And then that
Mhm.
is manifesting inside of you as, okay, well, am I going to fail? I'm kind of doubting the whole thing. So I guess because like a level of imposter syndrome with it. Is that about accurate with regards
Mhm.
to where you're at?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Like, to me, it makes sense, right? And that's why I'm doing it. But then when any business for that matter, whichever subject you have, and you bring it out to the end user might view it as a completely different. They might think of it as invasion of privacy, or you're talking too much. This topic, I don't want to talk about it, right? And they might not be able to embrace it the way I'm thinking, say, oh, yeah, you found a solution, I'm going to take it, but they might not. So then it's like you start questioning your own business model or even the business overall idea. Like, hey, was this maybe I'm too early to start this, business, right? So that's what is going on.
Got it. Okay. So what things have you tried already that you're like, yeah, well, it's not actually working?
Yeah, so last year, like for example, I thought this kind of idea, if I go to women who cannot afford anything, which is the minority women and who don't have economic means, I should go to the nonprofit organizations that this country has, even globally for that matter, not only in the United States. So I went after a lot of nonprofits. Now the nonprofits have women, millions of women, thousands of women in their, sort of like an ecosystem, so to speak, but none of them wanted to pay me. All right. I did not realize, I thought they have millions of dollars they've raised already. And what is such a big deal to spend a little bit money here? What I'm trying to propose. I did not realize that nonprofits try to get everything free for, pro bono. So I think last year I spent way too much time trying to go after nonprofits and not getting much. I mean, basically getting pro bono if I want to do that. So that was something that in hindsight, I feel that I should have used other channels, business to business channels to take this idea forward. I did not do that. It financially, it was like, okay, you want to give us pro bono, we'll take it. If you want us to pay, I'm sorry, we're not interested, right? That's what happened. That's what I tried, and I think I spent way too much time last year, about 6 months, going into this whole pro bono, trying to convince them and really understanding, oh, I was not ready to accept my failure. See, this is what I'm saying. I said, no, I need to go back. I need to go back. And I should have listened what the customer's telling me that, hey, we want this product, but we want it free. And I should backed out. I'm not ready to give free because I'm not like IBM or, Facebook here giving everything free. This is one of the experiments that we tried, and I think we failed or we learned from our mistakes.
Okay, perfect. So I guess the lesson there was, okay, well, I can't go to people that expect free and expect to make money, right?
Mhm,
Spent too long kind of learning that lesson, should have listened earlier, etc. So totally makes sense. So
mhm.
what did you pivot into in that case?
So this year, we went back to the drawing board, right? We listened to them. We actually met them in person, quite a few of them, and understanding the, overall needs. So the pivot is now I'm going after other businesses like which are related to what I'm doing. So for instance, some of the other businesses or even some employers, stuff like that, employers where they have women at work, the women at work, like I was having problems. So that is the pivot that we have done. And we just started these experiments with going after the employers and also some of the insurance brokers who are in the industry to offer some of these kind of services. So now this experiment has just started. It's not easy to break into this because there's a lot of relationship, that happens in this industry, which we found, especially the insurance industry is all relationship based. And I don't come from that industry. As I told you, my background is from corporate tech. So that's what we are studying in this year. But what I'm thinking is, okay, let's run this experiment for a month. If it doesn't work, then pivot and then keep going, keep doing it. I mean, that's at least, I mean, you tell me. I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
Got it. So my curiosity then is, why not go directly to the people that need, your information? Or like, do you sell
Mhm.
coaching as well, or is it just information?
No, no, it's coaching as well. But the thing
Coaching.
is,
Okay.
it's the end. So my target audience, if you ask me, the perfect person would be a 40-year-old woman who does not understand, and then and she's educated, and she wants to take care of herself. The problem is reaching these women is so expensive. Like, how do I get to them? Right now, me being going through a social media, it's not scalable. Well, maybe it's scalable, but it's very expensive for me to spend millions and millions of dollars to get to that woman out there. So that's why I thought, if I use an influencer in between who have access to these women, like women at workplace as an example, like, then it might be better for me to reach these women, the end women, because SEO is so, nowadays the SEO is like, oh my God, you keep doing it, it's like, it doesn't work, honestly. Social is super competitive. Then what do I do? How do I get to them? That's my dilemma, to be honest with you.
Got it. And then what's your like, have you gotten any training as far as like, direct response marketing, or how do I create an offer that's valid for this avatar, or like create messaging around it, or how do I create content? Like, have you actually invested in any of like training specific to that?
No, I have not trained myself. I have just learned on the fly. I come from a product management background, where I was managing products for these big companies. And I was interacting at that time with UX, UI, marketing, all the different departments within it to take any product to market, right? So product management manager is putting everything together and go to market. So I have a higher idea, but if you ask me exactly deep down, I'm not a pure marketing person of go to market strategy, but I have an idea. So maybe that's
Right.
something where you could guide, like, this avatar I created, how do I get to that?
Right. So here's what I would reflect back to you, right? Like, I understand why everything that's happening to you is bringing up all these feelings of doubt, and I have like the imposter syndrome. Is this even going to work? Am I going to fail? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. The reason that that's happening is you actually lack a skill gap. Like you have a skill gap in terms of knowing how to structure an offer, knowing how to create content around that offer, knowing how to create messaging so that it matters to the people that need to hear you. These are all skills that
Mhm.
you can build. But I think right now you're just reallocating your time in the wrong way. Like, what you should be doing is reallocating your time to building these skills and putting in the reps to do and build those skills. That's what's
Okay.
going to give you the confidence that you lack right now. Because it's like, okay, if you spent 6 months chasing, and my guess here is like, you're basically chasing avenues that you're kind of more familiar with given your background. Like, I'm more familiar with understanding like organizations and tech and like how that can leverage,
Mhm.
etc.
Mhm.
But you're moving into a completely different space. Like, this is a
Okay.
space where you are the face of your brand. You are the
Mhm.
one that's going to do the coaching. People need to know, like, and trust you. There's
Mhm.
not really like, you don't need the kind of corporate face to give you credibility. Your own story is your own credibility. What
Mhm.
you lack is the skill to translate that into, how do I reach the 40-year-old women that need me? Because there's a lot of people that are individual coaches that do the
Yeah.
type of work that you do. So this whole kind of limiting belief around, okay, well, social media is super competitive. There's like, yes, that's true. And there's also a
Mhm.
place for you. Like if you have a very unique background, you're going to
Mhm.
appeal to certain women more than others. Certain
Mhm.
women are going to relate to your story more than others. So there is a spot for you in there, but this isn't really a question of mindset as much
Mhm.
as it is you're lacking a skill set, but you're thinking, okay, well, it's maybe a mindset issue. Maybe I should get rid of my anxiety.
Mhm.
That's all going to get relieved through competence. The more competent you get at this
Mhm.
area, the more confident you're actually going to appear. So, what are your questions, thoughts, or concerns about that?
Yeah, interestingly, I think you're absolutely right because someone else told me they looked at our social channels, and I've done a lot of podcasts, recently. I think we had talked about that quite a bit, and I just shared my story, my personal story, right, and why I'm doing it, what happened to me, and then that's one of the things that even the social person said, that why aren't you have a credible story, why don't you put your story out on social rather than doing some strange things, eat capsicum, don't eat garlic, I'm just making it up, you know what I'm saying, right? Generic things, or do this yoga pranayama. Is it why, like everyone else is telling you, don't eat processed food, and you're doing the same thing, and that's how your brand is being perceived as general purpose, diet, nutrition, this, that, rather than relating to your brand. And the reason behind the brand is your personal story, right? And you're not doing it.
Yeah.
And it's interestingly, this someone told me about it 2 weeks back. And to be honest with you, the fear again, right? I said, oh my God, if I put my story out there, the fear of like, what will people think of me? Whether if I'm good enough, I have to record things on the camera, all those things. Yeah, I have a lot of doubts, right? So now, interestingly, a couple of months back, I just joined some pod match or some of these podcaster platforms to give it a try. And I've done quite a few podcasts. And they told me, why aren't you doing it? Like your story is so believable, credible, honest, everything. So
So,
to answer your question,
yeah. So, okay.
you know,
So it's a great question. Then why aren't you doing it?
I don't know. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. So that part,
Mhm.
okay, that is a mindset part
Yes.
that's stopping you from actually embracing the fact that you just need to learn a new skill set. Okay.
Yes, I think I don't have that skill set. I feel like, oh my God, I won't be able to do a good job, and I don't want to make a fool of myself. There's again that whole fear, anxiety, self-doubt that comes in, but it should not, but it does. And
Right.
I'm being
So
very honest
that
with you, it
piece,
does.
right? So that piece is actually about visibility.
Yeah.
Okay. So the mindset piece that is a hurdle for you right now, because the other part that you mentioned initially, I'm afraid of failure, I doubt this, the imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
that's literally you just don't have the competence. That's why you lack confidence, because you lack the competency, you lack the reps, you lack the skill to do it.
Hmm.
When you develop that skill, those are
Hmm.
going to go away because you're
Hmm.
going to just create momentum.
Yeah.
Now, the hurdle to that skill, the hurdle to that confidence,
Hmm.
from what you just described, is basically visibility. Like I'm there's a part of me that's afraid to be visible in this way, to show up in this way, to be authentic, to express everything I want to express
Hmm.
without the permission of somebody else's platform. Because you just mentioned, well, I talked about this on podcasts, but I can't really. There's a hesitation if it's
Hmm.
just me, by me, for me, like just me being the face of the brand. So
Yeah.
the part here that is the hurdle for you internally is there's a part of you that like I need permission
Hmm.
in order to share my story. I need the backing of somebody. It's almost like I need to borrow credibility and authority from
Hmm.
somebody else. Okay. Because
Hmm.
you're not, there's a party that's scared to take ownership of that
Hmm.
yourself. So
Hmm.
that really right now is the biggest hurdle to you actually getting out of your own way to develop the skill and do all of the things. So questions, comments, or concerns about that?
No, I think you're right. See, if a podcast is asking me a question, and then in my mind I'm thinking, oh, they must see something in me, right? They're talking to me and they're asking me all these questions. Why did you do this? All that stuff. So there is an element of influencer that who is asking me that question. And you're absolutely right. I feel more confident. Oh, this person must see something what I'm doing, and that's why they're spending an hour or whatever talking about it, right? Now, if so that was, and before, like this just happened 2 3 months back when I said, okay, I'm going to start sharing my story and see whether someone resonates or not. But before that, if someone asked me, oh, go share your story on your social channel, I'm like, oh my God, why the heck I'm going to do it? I have to. So there was a mindset, right?
Correct. So yeah, that's basically the one, right? Like it's there's a party just can't accept that you can take ownership and
Mhm,
authority of who you are, and you can be visible in that. And then also there's a part of you that's similarly scared. Well, if I am rejected in that, which you will be
mhm,
at some point, somebody's going to like send hate your way in some form,
mhm,
right? There has to be a part of you that can't handle that. And usually, like especially in like the work that I do, the way that this normally manifests is
mhm.
usually it's a childlike part of us that is afraid to be seen in this way. It's afraid to be witnessed because in general, like, you know, we've grown up in environments where that was crushed in some sort of
Mhm.
way. It was suppressed, it was repressed, it was hounded
Yes.
down, it wasn't allowed, etc. So now it's getting directly in the way of you creating the thing you need to create. Like the next level of your business needs that piece to be healed so that you can step up in that way. So that's kind of like the general thing that you can expect here, right? Like it's the childlike part that's freaking out, and it's not making room for the adult part to just show up and like, okay, yeah, this is uncomfortable, we're going to do it anyway, right? So that's kind of the limbo that you're at, and that's why you're also spending so much time chasing authority
Mhm.
through organizations, corporations, etc. Like you said, 6 months last year, plus now like a month. So like we're talking about a year of essentially, you know, wasted effort. But the
Yeah.
reality is, like I'm
I-
essentially running from visibility, but you could have spent that time pursuing this, right? So that's really the hurdle that's in front of you right now. So again, any questions, comments, or concerns about that?
No, I think it makes sense. That being so strong, in the sense, even if people don't like what you start doing, but sticking it out there and keep going. And I mean, honestly, I think I take my inspiration from Donald Trump. He has gone through so much. I mean, I respect this quality in him. Unbelievable what he has gone through in the last so many years. And if someone else had been in his position, probably would have said, "Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed." People are thinking so. All those things that he has gone through, but still, he won South Carolina, right? Nikki Haley didn't, and I'm like, "Oh my God, look at this guy. He's made of steel, and here I am. I can't even do a simple thing like this." I mean, seriously, I'm not kidding you. I was thinking about it today. Even Nikki Haley, for that matter, I mean, she's not giving up, right? She's saying, "No, I'm not. I'm going to keep going." So, so I think there is a thing in me that I look for someone else to get inspiration from. This is an example that happened that I think a lot of people can relate to, both of them, what happened today, that there's someone or someone else has to tell me, Amita, you can do it, right? And this is years of suppression, maybe growing up in a culture like that. I come from a cultural background where the suppression was part of the culture and not being expressing yourself. I mean, all those could be reasons, right? Behind, like, I'm thinking in my subconscious mind,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I would agree with you. And again,
Mhm.
I come from like a immigrant background as well. Like I wasn't born, you know, in Canada, North America, so I understand that suppression culture very well. So I get exactly what you're talking about, and I've had my own journey to overcome that as well. But you're absolutely right. It is all of those pieces, both from how I was growing up, and then how those things are reinforced when I went through corporate. And now it's like just me by myself. So it's coming to
Mhm.
the forefront, right? So you're
Yeah.
100% right. That's the pieces that need to be healed so you can eliminate this roadblock and then go and put in the reps for that, right? But it's like
Mhm.
two separate things. Like the skill is like you're gonna have to put in the reps, but it's like the
Mhm.
part that's standing in the way of the skill is all of these, fear of visibility.
Mhm.
Summarize it in one kind of sentence. So yeah, you're 110% right on that. So yeah, I mean, I don't really want to like belabor and repeat the point. I know you said you had some time issues, etc. So like I wish I could solve that for you in one episode, but it's like
Mhm.
I can't, you know. But in terms of just kind of laying the map on like, okay, what's going on, what's the actual hurdle, like does this feel complete for you, or is there still something left outstanding from that?
No, this is definitely has been a hurdle for me, and I think it's not today. It goes way back into the childhood, the how I think for everyone how they are raised, and I think growing up I was more of a shy person, naive, and always had a little bit of low self confidence. I always thought other person. My cousins, we grew up in a big family. They're much better because they could talk more, right? People who can talk the talk always are considered smarter, I think, in any society for that matter, on a quieter side. So I think it took me quite a few years to just to overcome that. And hey, you are smart enough. Hey, you are good enough. So I think that still that thing sometimes get a roadblock to what you are saying. I knew in my heart if I put my story out there last year, that's why it got me started doing what I'm doing. And I have an ability to connect with women very well, here locally. If I just talk to any woman, they feel very comfortable with me. Maybe I come across as a credible person. I'm talking generally without before even starting this business. A lot of women confide in me, my friends, and they'll talk to me, and maybe that. So all I have to do was just put out put myself out there in a way that I am saying, and I was afraid to do that. To your point, it was the hurdle of childhood, not a trauma, but the way you are brought up that blocks you now, even at this age, which is so surprising, but it happens. And that's what is happening to me. And I end up talking to my mom, you know, I mean, seriously, to get that permission to what you're saying, right?
Yep. And I mean, just one nuance I would add to that is you spent a long time in corporate and excelling in corporate. So you had to face these things even in those
Yes.
contexts as well. And the
Yes.
nuance that I want to add to your statement is it's not like wasted time. Like I
Hmm.
thought I overcame this and now it's coming back again. You might have overcome this or overcome it enough to excel in corporate, but these things are very context dependent. So in
Yes.
that context, you've healed and overcome these pieces enough
Hmm.
to excel in that context.
Hmm.
Now, when you remove the corporate element and now the spotlight is only on me, that's a
Hmm.
completely different context. It's going to trigger these same woundings in a totally
Hmm.
different and new way. Right. So it's not like I wasted all this time and how is this not healed, right? Because sometimes our brain will go into judgment around those things. It's
Hmm.
not necessary. You can celebrate how much you've overcome in this area and then
Hmm.
just recognize, okay, well, this context requires a different version of me, which requires me healing more of these patterns so I can show up only me in the spotlight, fully visible, owning my authority, owning my
Hmm.
value, asking for the right price for this, talking to the right people, becoming
Hmm.
my own authority for it. Like all of those pieces come from eliminating the fear of visibility when it's just me by myself in my business.
Hmm.
And then all the other skill pieces can be put into place. So does that make sense on like how to distinguish between
Hmm.
those two? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I work for really big corporations, as you can see, right? And they're very well known. There's a lot of branding behind it. There's a lot of confidence behind it. So you are given that backing when you're working for a corporation like, Western Union, Walmart, HP, all these companies, right? And I excelled at that because I think there was a lot of support, right? Whether it is artificial support or whatever, but you say, hey, I work for so and so company. You've noticed that, right? Especially in the cultures where I come from. The first question is, okay, where do you work? What do you do? Right? And then you say, oh, I work for XYZ. Oh, yeah, you work for Google? You work for Facebook? Oh my God, your thing goes up. Now, to your point, I'm by myself. I'm no Google, I'm no Facebook, I'm no whatever, Walmart. I'm just Amita Sharma trying to do something. And then those things start creeping back into because now you cannot say, I work for XYZ, and that gives you more credibility versus I say I work for whatever, and then you're thinking, oh, that's not credible enough, right?
Correct. Yeah. You can't, you're in a space now where you can't borrow credibility.
Exactly. And I
Right.
was borrowing credibility because I said, oh, I am here, I this. And now there's no credibility. There's just me alone in the lone world,
Well, and
alone
to be
safe.
fair, like you actually do have a lot of, maybe if
I
wrong
know.
word, I was saying boring authority, right? But you have
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
credibility just because like you were your own first client, right? Like you went through this
Yes,
process yourself, you know it
yes.
from the inside out, right? So the
Mhm.
credibility you actually have.
Yes.
It's the authority that you were borrowing. It's the essentially
Hmm.
the power, right? Because
Hmm.
then I can't stand in my own power right now because I don't have this backing. So that's the real distinction, right? Like you do have a
Yeah.
lot of credibility. It's kind of the authority and the visibility. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to just kind of circle around the
Hmm.
same point.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to be conscious of time. So as far as just like mapping this out and recognizing what the real issue is, like, is this kind of enough for you? Like, does it all make sense, or is there still something left outstanding?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think this is something that I, in my heart, knew this is a problem a few months back. In fact, last year when I spent so much time, I was desperately looking for one of these nonprofits to say, "Oh yes, we love you, Mita. We're going to write a check," those things. And think it just lacked the no. What I have done is good enough, and why and I think you just hit the nail on the head. I just need to feel more, come out of my shell, and the thing that inspired me to do my own story, relate to that to other women, because there'll be other women who will relate to what I'm saying. And I have not done that, and that was something that was sort of like a mistake last year, not coming out and doing it. It should have been done, but what can I do? What is done is done, right?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I mean, in that case, I think this is kind of like a good place to close it because I think that that
Mhm.
part's clear. So yeah, why
Mhm.
don't you then just close us off, let everybody know where to find you, who's the best person to find you, floor is yours for that.
Well, thank you so much. I'm the best person to find me at my work. I listen to you now.
Perfect. Well, yeah,
Um,
yeah, should share like all like this is where you get to practice being visible. So share your links, share all your stuff. Like this is your opportunity for that.
yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I've developed a wellness platform for mid-aged women going through hormonal imbalance and different stages of life from perimenopause all the way to postmenopause. You can find us at www.nourishdoc.com. We are in all the social channels, Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn. You can reach out to me, hello@nourishdoc.com. And my name is Amita Sharma. So thank you so much.
Awesome. You're very welcome. And yeah, acknowledge you for allowing yourself to be visible in this way and doing this because I know it can be uncomfortable. So
Mhm.
thank you for that. And yeah, of course, for everybody else listening, we'll include all of that in the show notes. Yeah, so thank you very much for being on, and for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.